Real people, real opinions, Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Ireland's classic hits.
Sinéad Kennedy is a solo travel mentor, mental health and well-being coach and fitness fanatic as well. I'm looking at her book here and the picture of her on a bike. So she's obviously a fitness fanatic because I haven't been on a bike in years. I'd be knackered after 5 minutes cycling. When she was 32 years of age, Sinéad says she was overwhelmed, exhausted, mentally burned out and sick of everything going wrong in her life. After a traumatic, life-changing event, she chose to pick herself up, shake herself off and live her life to the fullest. And this resulted in writing Life is a Cycle. Not that type of cycle, but the one you cycle on a bike. She says the book will resonate with anyone who needs inspiration to live their dreams, but perhaps doesn't know really where to start. And I think that's what we all want to do. We want to turn another chapter, but we don't know where to start. And she joins me in the studio, Sinéad Kennedy. Good afternoon or good evening to you.
Hi, Niall. Good evening. How are you? Thanks for having me in.
You're welcome. I always say good afternoon. It's like my day is just endless. Sometimes I'm saying good morning to people in the afternoon, good evening to people in the morning. It's just crazy. So what was the turning point in your life when you went through this traumatic time in your life and you were overwhelmed, exhausted, mentally burnt out, and you kind of had a day where you go, this all has to change?
Yeah, so the book starts back in 2005, and like I said, I was 32 years old and I had just bought a house I couldn't afford, look much like everybody, and things haven't changed obviously, and
No.
But everything was going wrong. I was in a very, very dark place in my life, and I mean that. It was totally and utterly in chaos.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but in hindsight, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. So, because sometimes you have to fall down to pick yourself back up, and that's basically what the book is about.
Yeah.
So I don't dwell too much on look, I was in a dark place, right? What did I do to get out of that hole? And that's where the book starts. So it's about how I built my bridges, how I picked myself up, got on with life, and there's some very funny stories because obviously I went off solo travelling. I was also at an age, I was 32, and I was kind of trying to fit into, I happened to live in South County Dublin, and I was sort of trying to fit into a lifestyle that wasn't ever meant for me.
Well, it's like to keep up with the Joneses lifestyle.
And, I was 32 and, everybody was telling me about my biological clock, and there was no man, there was no ring on my finger. It was all, It
was ticking away, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, but, when I sat back and really thought about it, I actually never wanted any of those things anyway, and I was just trying to conform.
Were you not a typical young 17-year-old girl who wants to meet the man of your dreams and walk up the aisle wearing white, have a baby and get married and live happily for the rest of your life in a nice, beautiful house?
No, I was too busy climbing trees and getting drunk and dancing on tables. And
well, that's not a bad way to start life, is it? Anyway, you know what I mean? So I'm assuming then you worked in the entertainment industry or the nightclub industry or the bar industry.
I did. I worked in hospitality for a very long time, and I absolutely hated it. And it got to the point where, oh Lord, people would say, oh, my steak is uncooked. And I'd be like, oh, go away. Like, I just couldn't do it any longer.
Well, then go home and cook it yourself.
I know, and I'd be there imagining like pouring soup over them, and I'd just and obviously I'd keep smiling and go through the motions. But that's what I was doing with life. I was going through the motions, and I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't fulfilled. I didn't know anything about anything. Like,
did you have a dream, bud? I mean, when you were, like, I know you say when you got to 32 you were mentally burnt out and all that kind of stuff, and you went through, well, I wouldn't say it was traumatic, but certainly exhausting life of not achieving anything, I suppose, if that's what you could say. So, but did you have a dream? Was there any kind of dream in there inside your head somewhere, I'd love to achieve this? Was there something there?
I think honestly, a lot of my passions were very suppressed, and again, that's modern life, and when we don't listen to ourselves and we sort of, like I said, try to conform. But I always adored travelling, and I was very, very lucky, and again, it's in the book, that my dad was big into travelling and he brought us abroad. We were very lucky. We didn't have relations down the country that we had to go visit. Instead, we would go to France or Spain, and so I got a real travel bug from him. But I also absolutely adored just being fit, and in my bedroom I'd pretend to be studying, and actually I used to have the Jane Fonda videos on, and I'd be doing aerobics workouts.
Jane Fonda, keeping fit with Jane Fonda. I remember the videos.
She inspired my whole life, and she gets a few mentions in the book.
Because she started out as being the sex symbol because she was it Barbarella? Was that the movie she was in?
No, it was Cat Ballou.
Who was Barbarella?
Oh, I don't know, but I know she was Capital.
Somebody will text in. Somebody will text in and tell me who Barbarella was. I thought it was Jane Fonda that was Barbarella. But anyway, of course, she became the sex symbol, didn't she? And the one that everybody wants, every woman wants to look like Jane Fonda.
Yeah, and I absolutely adored her, and I loved her big poofy hair and her leg warmers. And it was just, it was the 80s when I was growing up. And so, yeah, my mum used to think I was fierce, big into studying it. And it's funny, because the Leaving Cert starts today. And, I used to pretend to study it, but really I was up in my room doing aerobics workouts. But healthy body, healthy mind. And I think that's, hugely overlooked, particularly for students today. Get up, get out there, have some fun.
Yeah. So you decided to go cycling. So where did the cycle? Now I'm kind of mixing up the two words with the life cycle and the life cycle, if you know what I mean. So where did the cycling come into it?
Well, it's a play on words, the cover of the book, because I did go cycling all over the world, but life is a cycle because it does come full circle. Yeah. So cycling. We lived on a farm up the top of a hill at the back of Tala where I grew up, and cycling was my first big way of getting independence from my family. I used to cycle down to the shops and I used to think I was brilliant, and it gave me my first taste of solo travelling, even if it was just going to the shops or down to cricket practices.
Was this the back roads up towards Blessington?
Not quite, but up more around Bornabrina. So yeah,
oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So up around there. So my bike to me was just my own personal outlet, and I'm actually quite introverted. I know people will probably scoff at that, but actually I am. And what I loved about cycling was it was on my own. And even now I'm in a cycling club, and I cycle for myself, but I'm with other people. But ultimately, it's very much a solo sport. Which
and did you find cycling kind of cleared your head a little bit, or because a lot of people say that when they kind of go cycling, it's just them at the road and the bike, and it kind of clears their head of any kind of negativity. Maybe it just gives them a chance to breathe, I suppose. To
breathe and to see the fresh air. But I think any sport will bring you into the moment. You're not thinking about your bills. You're not thinking about the stresses of work. So it for me personally, cycling is my sport. But if you're out walking or jogging or archery, tennis, whatever it is, sport is there for a healthy body, healthy mind. And for me, just cycling was a natural progression, because I had always had a bike growing up as a kid, and I moved abroad after my meltdown. I went abroad worked on the cruise ships, and again, there's more stories in the book about the Love Boat. And,
when you say you had your meltdown, by the way, did you physically have a meltdown at some point where you sat there, cried your eyes out, and said, "What am I doing with my life?" It was a bit
more serious than that. It was
deep depression.
There was well, again, I don't want to give too much about the book, but there was a big intervention, and I got taken in for my own safety. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that, by the way.
No,
and that's difficult to even talk about and think about.
No, it's not, because I'll be honest with you, I'm very lucky that I got a wake up call, and I know there's obviously people listening and who have never had their wake up call, or people who unfortunately didn't make it out the other side, and I'm very, very fortunate that I did. And but I'm very aware that there are people who don't get there, so I don't want to make light of mental health issues by any means.
Of course, yeah.
But after my own personal meltdown, I decided the best thing I could do was get the hell out of Ireland. I was embarrassed. People knew what I'd done, and I just needed to create a lot of space. And I know it's...
Why were you... I mean, can I ask you, by the way, what year this was, or when this was?
2005.
So... I don't think nowadays that the embarrassment that you had in 2005 would be there as much, because the stigma isn't quite the same. If somebody is for their own mental health goes in somewhere in those days, or even as far as 2005, it would have been looked and shunned upon as there would be a level of stigma to that. But I don't think that's the same now. I think people would have more empathy. Or would they, do you think?
I'm not willing to find out, to be honest with you. But the other thing is, I mean, if you imagine just going out on a night out and making a complete show of yourself, and then the next morning having to wake up and everybody knows what you've done, like if you
and
could...
people telling you what you've done,
yeah,
you didn't
if you
even know.
multiply that by about 3 million.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, that's my own personal... I mean, I don't know. Other people could just maybe water off a duck's back. But for me, I was mortified, and I was like, to hell with this. I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming then alcohol played a huge role in that.
Yeah, there was a big problem with alcohol as well. So
Yeah.
and I quit
Yeah.
that. Yeah, best thing I ever did for myself was quit booze.
And so have you quit all the bad stuff? Did you smoke at the time?
I did, yeah. Smoked, drank, danced on tables, swung out of chandeliers. Anything I could do, yeah.
But the swinging out the chandeliers isn't too bad. It can be quite entertaining. But you've given up the other bad habits, the smoking and the drinking.
Yeah, except for if I could give up sugar, I'd be perfect. But I can't. I just can't.
You and me both the same. Look at this can of Red Bull. There you go. That keeps me going, all right. And I drink 3 or 4 of those a day and take 4 sugars in my tea. The doctor, I was actually only got a blood test recently, and the doctor said to me, I'm surprised you're not post-diabetes at this stage. But I'm fine. Thankfully, my blood test came back okay. So at what point did you decide that you could help other people?
Well, naturally, off I went on the cruise ships, and it's very funny. So when I went for my interview for the cruise ships, I had since qualified as a physical therapist. But there's actually quite a long delay between your interview and getting on board the ship. So in the meantime, I went off and became a fitness instructor because I just wanted to be like Jane Fonda. So when I went to London for my pre-cruise ship training, they said, are you qualified at anything else? And I said, oh, well, I literally qualified yesterday as a fitness instructor. And they said, oh, off you go. You're off to Singapore to teach aerobics on a cruise ship.
Just like Jane Fonda.
Yeah. And the very first day I rocked up, and I had never taught a class to anybody. And it literally, excuse the pun, was a case of sink or swim.
Right, okay. So did you just copy what Jane Fonda did in the videos?
I just, the thing about it is people are sheep so when you stand on front of a class and you lift your head up high and you say, hello, I'm here to teach you, they will follow. Because people do like to be told what to do. And that's what I really did learn. I was like, oh my God, even though I was making a mess of it, they were just following me like Simon Says.
Yeah, people do that, particularly if they want to learn, I suppose, because people are generally there to learn. So I suppose mentoring people, physical health is attached and intrinsically linked to mental health, without a shadow of a doubt. So if somebody was in your situation now and they felt their life was going nowhere, it was just going all in the wrong direction, and they needed to change, but they just don't have that, I suppose, the oomph to want to change, how do you help them to change?
Somebody who doesn't have do you mean they haven't got the will to change, or
well, they want to, but they just don't. I suppose it's like me to an extent when it comes to smoking, right? I want to give up smoking, right? It's not quite the same thing as what you're talking about. I want to give it up, but every time I make an attempt, I fail miserably. I last an hour, and then it's I'll just get one more bloody packet. So I just, even though I want to do it, and I suppose it's the same with somebody who's going nowhere in their life. Maybe they're in a dead end job that they hate, and they desperately want to do something about it, but they just don't have the mechanism to do that. How do you convince, or how do you tell people how to change their life? Is there do you have to decide at a point where you say, this is it, sink or swim?
I think, basically the change has to come from within, and that might sound very hippy-dippy, airy-fairy, but it's true. Like, change is not going to happen. We all know, trying to teach your child manners, for instance, you can tell them 100 times, but until the child learns or realises the consequences, that's when the change happens. So I guess now I would have many shortcuts, because at the time, obviously, it's taken me years to get to this point. But now more recently, and again, it's something very common, life coaching, psychotherapy, all those modalities are really common space now. And I've done 2 diplomas now in life coaching, and I absolutely adore it, because I really do feel that I can get in to help people. And it's not me telling them what to do. It's me helping them to realise what needs to be done, helping them to understand that they're responsible for their life. And I think that's, again, something that has very often been taken away from us, particularly the last 3 years. We weren't allowed to be personally responsible for ourselves, and people need some help getting back to realise that people aren't responsible for you, and people don't owe you anything. You've got to do it yourself. So this whole punching in, punching out of life isn't, some people are going to drift through life, and that's fine. But for other people, you got to stand up, make the change, and decide for yourself that this is it.
And some people, I suppose, are of the mindset that their life is mapped out for them and there's nothing they can do to change that. And there are people who believe that, who genuinely believe this is my destiny. Look, that's it. I always have bad luck. Nothing works for me. I'm always going to fail. And they kind of have that thought in their head constantly all the time.
Yeah, and even, if we even look at the movie The Field, he didn't want the land. But, again, it's just a very, typically Irish thing, you will inherit this and you will get into this lifestyle. And that's not the lifestyle that you want. And we all know people who say, now, like I know somebody who always wanted to be a maths teacher. And he's the furthest thing from a maths teacher. But that's what he actually wanted to be or do. But he's not a maths teacher. So
I wanted to be a pilot.
That's not all it's cracked up to be.
I bought the flight simulator for my computer. That's about as far as I'm going to get. I'm never going to take off and get off the ground. I did do 2 flying lessons, and the second one they taught me how to land, and that terrified me. So I'll never do it again. But I suppose, are some people winners and some people losers? Or are we all capable of being winners?
We're all capable of being, we're all capable of achieving what we want to achieve. And, some people obviously are in terrible situations and, the old saying, you're a product of your environment. But if that was true, there wouldn't be sort of millionaires who came from nowhere. They're, from rags to riches stories. So they kind of blow that theory out of the water. But there are people who are.
But they're few and far between. The Bill Cullens of this world, for example. Well, I don't know what Bill Cullen's doing now, but was it Bill Cullen or Des? I can't remember his name. It was Bill Cullen. Yeah, sure. He kept telling that story about the penny apples all the time.
Yeah,
that famous story. Yeah. Now, mind you, he did go bankrupt at some point as well. But I don't know. Maybe he's successful again. But I mean, those stories are kind of few and far between of the rags to riches, aren't they?
They are, but they're not. But they're not. They're not common, but they do exist. And it's like I always think, somebody wins the lottery every week. And people buy a lotto ticket in the hope that they'll be the one. But like somebody always wins it eventually, but somebody will win it.
Well, it just goes to show you that we all have hope, because realistically, you've a 1 in 36 million chance of winning the Euro Millions, but yet we go out and think we might be that 1 in 36 million who are going to win it.
Look at the lady from Limerick. 115 million.
Dolores Kane.
Yeah. So I think that the saddest thing is when people do give up hope, or they have hope drained out, like literally shook out of them. And that's, again, coming from their lifestyle or their upbringing. And that's where the learning has to come in, that you have to realise that they're preconditioned beliefs, that they're not your actual beliefs. So But
you also don't want to have false hope either, because there are some things that are just not achievable, aren't there? You have to be realistic, because if you're not realistic, well, then you'll make insane decisions. Or maybe life is just about taking risks, I don't know. But you know what I mean? You do have to be realistic. When you're setting your goals and setting your limits,
but
you have to be realistic.
This is where people make the mistake. So for instance, just as an example, you mentioned, I'm going to quit cigarettes today. But perhaps if you said, okay, I normally smoke 5 a day tomorrow, and for the next week, I'm just going to smoke 4 a day. And then the next week I'll smoke 3 a day, and then 2 a day. So making it into bite-sized pieces. And that's the same with goal setting. Like, you don't start building a skyscraper from the top down. You start with the foundations and you build your way up. And that's goal setting is most important. It's just bite-sized
So in other
pieces.
words, set achievable goals.
Set achievable
not impossible goals.
Exactly. And when we achieve something, we create dopamine in our body, and that's our feel-good hormone. And that's what strives us to go on and again and to achieve more, So it's the dopamine hit, and we get addicted to dopamine hits by achieving things.
Yeah, I also get a sugar hit as well. The sugar
me too.
I'm just like you. In relation to the book, I suppose, what would people, get out? What's the best thing they're going to get out of this book? Because it does look like it's a very interesting book. I don't read too many books, to be honest with you, but I'm going to have a quick read of this one. So, what will they get out of it?
So a lot of lovely feedback has come back and lovely reviews, and I think the biggest word is that relatable is coming through. So, for instance,
that was me in that situation, that kind of feeling.
Yeah, because I've been very honest in the book, warts and all, about how unhappy I was, but then also travelling on my own, getting sick, getting into really funny situations that I never expected to get into. Because I went off then and I've cycled like the longest climb in the world in Colombia. My guide went off and left me in the middle of nowhere. So there's just a lot of very funny.
I mean, you've
stories.
achieved quite a lot. You completed 3 Dublin City marathons, numerous half marathons, adventure races, and it also mentions here as well. You completed the Le Marmot in France.
Yeah, that's a
I'm not even going to try and pronounce the rest of these ones here.
Yeah, don't.
Is it Les Ingles du Mont
Ventoux.
Ventoux in France? So I'm assuming that you're fit as a fiddle.
Okay, so again, in my book, what I really want to reiterate is I'm not an elite cyclist. I'm 50 years old now, and I'm just me. I'm 5'3", and I'm just not. I'm not an elite, and I didn't start cycling well into my 30s.
You must be doing something right if you can manage to do it. By the way, I did run the marathon when I was younger, a lot younger. By the way, can I just point out?
Yeah.
And I wasn't smoking quite as much. I don't think I could do it now.
No, a lot of the stories are about me, like literally just getting around, So the Marmot, for instance, I was very naive. I signed up for this event, and all I saw was France and summer and July, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll do that. And some members of my cycling club, I'm in Orwell Wheelers, and some of the gang were going, and I just joined on the trip, and I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. And then I got there, and I suddenly realised how big the mountains were. But again, I imagined I was a tortoise, and I just kept going. And again, the story is about overcoming the tears, the snot, the trauma, just everything. But I got around it, and I finished it. And that's the thing about my story, is that I never gave up. And even when the going got tough, I dug deeper, and I just kept going.
Now, did it also, it mentions here as well that you suffered a dislocated hip when you were just 7 months old. By the way, which was, I kind of vaguely remember a thing, and maybe I'm mad, but when I was younger, a lot of kids had dislocated hips. It was a thing, wasn't it? I don't know whether that was something that was happening at the time or so, but I do remember, you remember kids used to have those casts. Little babies used to have those casts. And I don't see that anymore.
No, there's a different way of treating it now. Yeah, it's per phase. It's more common in females than males. Yeah, but yeah. So
and did that affect the rest of your life? I mean, your dislocated hip, it was caused by an infection. So do you still end up having pain because of that?
Oh, absolutely. And that's how I got into yoga and fitness and physical therapy. And obviously my biggest advocate is movement. And, I go out, I get in the sea regularly because it's arthritic and it's badly damaged. But it hasn't stopped me doing anything. I mean, I've ran 3 marathons on it badly. And I should say again, I didn't win any records for my marathons, but I finished them, and that's the main thing. But also it gave me a very big understanding of the body, because I went to see a specialist when I was 14. I was having terrible trouble with growing pains. And he basically told my mother I was to sit down for the rest of my life and to become a secretary, and I was to do nothing with my life. That was his advice.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Nice guy. So
yeah.
yeah. And luckily,
he's happy patients.
Yeah. Luckily, I just knew not to listen to him. I think inside we all have a gut instinct, and my poor mum was terrified, and I was there like climbing trees and running riot. And if anything,
were you a tomboy? Were you a bit of a tomboy?
Yeah, I grew up on a farm. Yeah, I was a tomboy. Yeah. And but he spurred me on, and I just have this terrible notion of like, I'll show you, don't you tell me what to do. And so yeah, but I was lucky. I do have a good strength of character, which probably got me from A to B.
In relation to the fact that you said when you got to 32, the biological clock was ticking away, you obviously haven't had children since, because we would have talked about that otherwise. Has there ever been a pushback in relation to that? Because in Ireland there's this thing, if you're a woman of childbearing age and you've never had kids, there's this kind of negativity surrounding that, which there shouldn't be, by the way. And even mother-in-laws would be saying to, the newlyweds, anything happening yet? Anything stirring? This kind of idea that every woman must be a receptacle for children. Do you ever get any negative pushback out of that?
No, I think I got off the hook lightly because of what happened to me in 2005. People were terrified to talk to me about anything, and they probably thought that I was the last person that should have children, that I couldn't be that I couldn't be responsible for myself, never mind a child. So I got off the hook lightly, I would imagine. But no, I mean, there's so many amazing women, certainly my age, and again, I'm in that tribe. They've never had kids. We're all, single. We're all, got our own properties. We're all doing great. No, there's
and what about we spoke to Jimmy before the break. I'm sure you probably heard him with the R word. Are you religious or spiritual?
I'm very, very outdoorsy, very into nature. I feel very, very happy when I'm outdoors, and I would just be looking at the birds and
Amazed by the world around you.
Amazed by the world around me, and I adore travelling. I mean, I've been to 70 countries now, and talking to other nationalities. I suppose I would just consider myself worldly / spiritual. I don't know. I couldn't really put a name
free
on
spirit.
it. A free spirit, but very much nature driven.
Okay, and why? Is there a particular reason why you like to travel alone more so? I mean, do you think it's kind of weird to want to travel solo when you're in a relationship?
Well, I'm not in a relationship, so.
No, because some people would say if you're in a relationship, because some people feel if they're in a relationship they can't travel solo. So is it weird to want to travel solo?
No, I think everybody should absolutely travel solo, even if it's just a day trip to the museum. Go and mingle with tourists. Clear your mind. I love, and again in my book I've written very honestly about how every time I settle down into a long haul flight, I take out a journal and I'll have my annual appraisal with myself, and we bring the car for a service, and we bring, we have work appraisals, so I like to do one with myself, and I think that's what traveling solo does. You it brings up a lot, and you can kind of, and I hate to use the expression, you find yourself, but you hear yourself. You can hear yourself think. You get away with all the debris that's around you and everybody else banging on at you, and you can just hear yourself think. I think that's the best expression.
Yeah. And, okay, well, it sounds like a wonderful read, by the way. Life is a Cycle is the name of the book. And, by the way, when did you write the book? Was it kind of combination of writing chapters throughout the years or something like that, just lashing it all together? I mean, or was it something you sat down and intentionally said, right, I'm going to show other people how to get through this situation I've been through?
I got this great idea one day, as I do with every other idea I've ever had in my life, and I was lying on a beach in Cuba, and I took out a pen and paper and said, right, I'm going to write a book. And
As you do.
So yeah. I started making some notes, and then I wrote a very bad draft, which unfortunately I showed to some publishers, and they basically said, no, you're grand, thanks, don't worry about that. And then over the years, so it took me 3 years to write the book, and it became a very, very different. So from a draft to what it is now, it's 100% different. But
was there anything in it they said you better take that out? You can't put that in. People will sue you.
No, actually, I got some really great advice, and it was from this lovely lady, and she read it, and she said, "There's no depth of soul in it." She said, "You either write the book or you don't." She said, "You got to put your soul into it," and that's when the book became rather honest and personal about all the other crap that had gone on in my life.
Is there anything you regret? Is there anything that's in the book that you kind of say, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have shared that"?
No, because there's quite a lot I didn't share, because there's so many more things I've done in my life. No, I was very cautious. Obviously, you can't name people, you can't slag people off. As much as you might want to trash like an ex-boyfriend or something in the book, you can't.
Yeah.
But they know who they are. I know.
You know who you are.
And they're probably saying, "Oh, thank God, good riddance to her, crazy lady." But
that was a lucky escape.
Oh yeah, but I say the same about them, so that's fine. So, but no, it's just no. I'm very happy with what I've written, and I honestly wouldn't take a word back of it. And I'm actually very proud of it, and I would love it to get into more shops, but turns out it's incredibly difficult to get a book into bookshops.
It is, I believe so. Now, I've never written a book, but I am actually, for those of you who are interested, I am penning one.
Well, you see, you're in a very lucky position, because people like you, so as an example, like Prince Harry, we all know Penguin Random House.
Don't compare me with Prince Harry.
No, but just listen up for a sec. So they knocked on his door. You're a celebrity. We can cash in on you. Here's a pen and paper. There's a writer. He's going to do all the dirty work for you. You just talk to him. We'll do all the marketing. Bob's your uncle. There's a check, and everyone's
That's not the way it works for me, but I'm not Prince Harry.
But that's the way it works for all celebrities. I was at a dinner recently, and there was a GAA star afterwards, and I honestly don't know his name, because I'm not interested in GAA. I don't know any of them, so apologies to whoever he was. But he said, "Oh, they keep asking me to write a book. I finally agreed to it. I met the writer, the ghostwriter, the other day, and we had a chat, and I nearly got sick, because I literally wrote every word in that book, and it took me 3 years." And not only that, and I'm not whinging or anything. I've been in the Irish Independent, I've been in the Irish Times, I'm here on your show, and I've done a cracking job at marketing myself. But they just have it so easy, and within months they're up in Eason's, and they're there signing books, and they actually didn't lift a finger. Like
I know.
They didn't do any
that,
of the heavy lifting.
That could be so annoying. I mean, and don't get me wrong, you are right. I'm in the lucky position that I can promote my own book if I, and I have the.
But you'd
the
easily get
opportunity.
a publisher, like you have.
Well, I don't know, but I haven't put it out there yet that I want to publish it for anybody. But just kind of point out if any publishers listening, and he goes right.
They will. Gil do all the celebrities. You go into Easton's and all.
But
the
I'm
Gil-
not a celebrity.
But they can cash in on you because you've got following. You see, I'm a nobody, and
But you're not. But you're not a nobody. Here's the thing: you're somebody who changed your life at 32.
Yeah, but they
you
don't-
made something of your life.
But I'm not bankable. I'm in a corporate world. I'm not bankable.
I mean, judging by what you've told me so far and the life that you've had, it's an extremely interesting life with ups and downs and holes everywhere. But then you come back and you bounce back.
Yeah.
And the whole Jane Fonda thing really interests me as well, by the way. And I'm
trying to get her. I keep tweeting her and I keep Instagramming her, and I just can't get. So if anyone knows Jane Fonda,
what you need a Kardashian to hold up your book and go, "This is great," or Elon Musk or something. This is great. This book.
Yeah. So if anyone knows Elon or a Kardashian, that'd be great help, please.
Yeah, well, if you want, I'll hold it up for you. But then again, I'm not really a celebrity. I think
You'll
I've only
start.
got
It's a start. It's a
170,000.
start.
I've about 170,000 followers, but I mean, that's probably not enough nowadays. Nowadays, unless you're in the millions, nobody really wants to know about you.
I know.
You know what I mean? But it is a wonderful book, but the sounds of it. I'm going to be honest. I've just, glanced at the bits and pieces, but I wouldn't know enough about it yet. But it sounds like a wonderful read because I think everybody's been at that point in their life.
They have, and it's written very down to earth. It's not a difficult book. It's a good holiday read, if I say so myself.
Yeah.
It's nice and easy to read. There's some good laugh out loud moments, and this is again feedback. This isn't my
Is there
opinion.
dirty bits? Is there dirty bits in it that happened on the cruise?
No, they're on the OnlyFans page.
Are you not mad you didn't put some dirty bits in it?
I didn't put any dirty bits in it because it kind of wasn't that kind of book. But my next book could be well smutty if I really. Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. I need to write smut.
Life is a Cycle 2 is on the way. You've heard it here first.
Then it'll be in all the bookshops. Wait, you see.
So where is it available? If people want to grab it, where is it available?
It's available online. It's available in Alan Hanna's in Rathmines. It's available in a lot of the bike shops. Actually, they've been hugely supportive. So
okay.
the cycles.
What about Halford's? Have Halford's taken it?
No, but Cycle Superstore, Joe Daly's, Think Bike. These are all Dublin shops. But it is available online with worldwide delivery. And I have personally posted more books worldwide than I have in Ireland because obviously I'm doing the delivery myself because it works out cheaper. But like I've posted books to Australia, Canada, Germany, Finland, Australia, New Zealand.
That's great.
Yeah, I've actually sold more abroad than I have in Ireland. And again, that's huge because it's gone all around the world. And I'm delighted because it's obviously it's written in English. It's very relatable, and it's not sort of an Irish. It's international because I'm an international kind of person. I've been all over.
No relation, by the way, to the Kennedys, the Kennedys. No.
No, we're not. Not that I know of, anyway. No.
Well, you never know because there's an Irish link there somewhere. There might be a long distance relationship. Sinead Kennedy. The book is called "Life Is a Cycle." And if you've ever been in that place in your life where you think, you need to change because things are just going nowhere and they're going from bad to worse, and you want to focus on something and you want to move on with your life and you want to change your life and make something of yourself, it seems to be the book to read because it's certainly, from what you're telling me and the stuff that's in it, it does sound inspirational, to be honest. You're inspiring me to give up the smokes at least.
Okay. Well,
tonight.
just cut one down a day for me and we'll start there.
Yeah. Sinead, it's been wonderful talking to you.
It's been great having you in my studio.
Yes, you're in my studio there, can I just point out. Sinead, thank you very much indeed.
Okay,
and
thanks.
if you want to get the book, by the way, it's available in the bike shops. Mention all the bike shops again.
So Cycle Superstore, which is in Tala, they also have online sales. Joe Daly's in Dundrum, Think Bike in Rathmines, Alan Hanna's bookshop in Rathmines, Academy Books in Drogheda, and it's available on my website, SineadEKennedy.com, with worldwide delivery.
What about Amazon? Can you get in there?
Oh, you can, but we don't like to support Jeff, but it is there, yeah.
Okay, so you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon.
You can get it on Kindle on Amazon as well, but personally I would prefer if you bought from local people.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Let's not give Jeff Bezos the money, the commission that he gets on all those books. I don't know how much he actually gets, probably a large percentage. Why is Jane waving her hand? Oh, sorry, Jane. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Can I also mention as well that I've been told to mention that Pieta provide a 24-hour free phone crisis helpline number and text service where qualified therapists will answer your call or respond to your message. It's at 1-800-247-247. So if you do find yourself in a very dark place on a very serious note, and you find yourself in a difficult situation where you feel there's no way out for you, and you just want to talk to somebody, it's always good to talk. 1-800-247-247, and that's Pieta House, and there's a free phone crisis helpline number. I don't know, by the way, if you've ever availed of those at that time. Was it that bad, by the way, in your life, Sinead?
No, I didn't avail of it. I just took to vodka and paracetamol instead.
Yeah, we don't recommend people do that.
No,
but,
we absolutely don't.
But isn't that the exact reason why a book like this will show people how to get out of that cycle, and that bad cycle? Because life is a cycle. It is. Thank you very much to everybody, by the way. Thank you to Sinead Kennedy. Thank you to Jay, my producer, Sinead Kennedy.
Real people, real opinions, real talk radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.